Let's stay in Nigeria then. The country's GDP contracted over 3.6% in the third quarter of 2020 and by over 6% in the second quarter. The World Economic Forum says over 27% of the Nigerian labour force is unemployed. To discuss the economic situation there and possible solutions, I'm joined by Lanre Osibona. He's the CEO of the Foresight Group. He's going to be speaking to us. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. What would you say the impact of COVID-19 has been on Nigerian business and on the African continent in general?
Hello, thank you. Thank you very much. It's been across the rest of the world. It's been quite been a drag on already shrinking economy that was facing recession. And if you look at the micro, small and medium enterprises, which makes about 65% of the country's GDP output, were affected because of the lockdown and the fear in terms of people going out and the need for businesses to open. So this has been a real major impact.
Mm-hmm. What role do you think SMMEs and informal businesses play in the economy of Nigeria, particularly in the last year?
SMEs are the power machine behind the economy of Nigeria. Even though I heard you talk about oil being the major earner, which is true, but then MSMEs play a key role in terms of keeping the economy going and the everyday activity of the majority of the people surrounded around the MSMEs. So a seemingly impact on the MSMEs can literally grind the economy to a halt. Okay.
So you've worked on something called the Survival Fund. Tell me about that and the role of SMEs in that.
Absolutely. As we did identify, and the government rightly so identified MSMEs to be a key sector of the economy, they thought there was a major need to support them with the stimulus program, palliatives, again, which, as you can see, it's the same across the world. So the idea was to look at the best approach to infuse economic activities and help protect jobs, help ensure manufacturing keeps ongoing. So there were three programs that were looked at. There was a payroll support, which was around supporting the employees of businesses, MSMEs businesses. There was direct grant to some other MSMEs, and there was the guaranteed offtake, which is the idea of purchasing products, especially key products, masks, sanitizers, soaps, things like that, from MSMEs. But the beauty of all of this, which is really where we play a role, is the fact that it was an opportunity to also use digital tools to onboard these MSMEs. Without a shadow of a doubt, we know the impact of and the importance of digital transformation on our continent. While we might be coming from a very low base, and a lot of businesses are not very literate, there was also an important outcome to digitize, onboard, get vital data or digitalize for these businesses as part of you reaching out to support the businesses. It was a situation where you don't have to force people to come on board. Now they wanted to come on board so they can benefit from the program, and you can get accurate data from these MSMEs. Which I love the saying about make the most of the crisis. I think what we're doing is making the most of this crisis and seeing the silver lining, being able to digitize and these MSMEs. As part of the program, I believe close to 3 million MSMEs and the beneficiaries have been reached with their records, and also with accurate data that the government can now benefit from. Accurate data forecasting in the future, being able to help digitalize and formalize some of these MSMEs, and the way that eventually, as they do better, the economy benefits even better from tax purpose.
Okay, so then based on your experience with that system and those over 2 million small and medium enterprises that had access to funding and access to government as a result of that system, what are the possibilities for the African continent when it comes to digitalization?
I think this is a great example and a major milestone for Nigeria, where we need to embark on digital transformation as a project. in its decade. This, what has been a challenge, COVID-19 pandemic, has become a major stepping stone for actually commencing such a journey. Some of the unintended outcome, or unexpected outcome is the fact that you find MSMEs getting to become more literate digitally and being able to now, go online, submit, register. It's all absolutely seamless. You don't need to go anywhere. Just have access to the internet with the device, and you will complete your process. You will follow through. You have your own portal. Well, what we've built for the government is what we call a Citizen Relationship Management Information System, a CRM, MIS. And the idea is that we're starting with the MSMEs. Every MSME has its own portal and can interact with government on every day, providing updates, providing information that's requested, and government giving feedback. So I think this is a major aspect of how the continent must engage in digital transformation. Absolutely critical, because we must, you hear people talk about data is key, data is important, and absolutely so. For us to be able to really stay competitive and lift our people out of poverty, we must adopt digital transformation. Plus the many benefits, the transparency that's involved as part of such process, the amount of huge data that will be gathered as part of such process. The economists can better forecast and provide better, accurate reports. So, the benefits are just immense. And of course, there are a number of jobs that will be created. We have a continent that is full of young people. The best opportunities for job creation is around digital jobs.
Okay.
Going digital creates opportunities for these people to have more jobs.
So then we also know when it comes to opportunities, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, there are opportunities for growth there together with tech. What opportunities are there, and what obstacles perhaps are standing in the way of the continent growing in large leaps?
Absolutely. I think I'm glad you mentioned the AFCFTA agreement. And I'm glad that the continent is, grabbing this and moving forward with it. There's been a major progress since January of this year. There's a whole lot that we share in common. What excites me, our focus is across the continent. We see ourselves as a company that focuses across the African continent in helping with the digital transformation journey. And the beauty of it is that this is a 1.3, 1.4 billion population market, right? If you look at e-commerce, if you look at fintech, if you look at cryptocurrencies, there's a lot of drama around that. But if you look at blockchain, if you look at what we can do together, if you look at in data protection policy, if you look at a whole lot of the convergence and the opportunities that digital transformation offers us as a continent is even much more than what we've achieved physically. So we must adopt that as a single market, which, when you talk about ACFTA, that will help us indeed. Like I said, we need to have a framework around e-commerce. We need to have a framework around data protection. We need to have a framework around fintech, so that we can do seamless transactions across board. Businesses can transact across all, north, south, east, west of the continent, and we can deal amongst ourselves. Those are the areas that we must try and move at the same pace so that no one's left behind. And I think we can achieve that. I think the opportunities and the young people of the continent are leading this charge already. So it's an exciting time. It's really an exciting time, I must say.
When people speak about Africa's potential, as we're doing now in terms of growth, the one comment that always comes up is that there is all this potential, but then when it comes to implementation, perhaps that's not so simple. I know that you've got a background as an advisor to the Vice President of Nigeria, and you've gone into the private sector. So perhaps you'd be quite well informed to answer us about public-private partnerships and how those need to work in order to implement these large plans and goals, so that it doesn't just go from a theoretical idea, but it's actually practical and implementable.
Absolutely. And I think that's the way to go for us on the continent. We must deepen the public-private partnership. We must deepen it. While government focuses around the policy, focuses around the regulatory environment, we need to ensure that we bring the ability and the capacity and the competence of the private sector into play. I came out of private sector into government, public sector for 5 years. I'm back in private sector. And it was a great learning curve for me, a great learning experience. And I think without a shadow of a doubt, this program, as an example, is the success of it is on the back of the public-private partnership. And I think we need to see much more of it. We need to see how do we grow businesses, what they call unicorn businesses out of the private sector. The government are the ones that can enable this. We need to look at how do we have, regulatory environment that is innovative, that allows for innovation to prosper. Because again, we need to be very careful. I think we're in such a dynamic space right now that while we must be ensure that we do protect and regulate, but we must be flexible to allow for innovation to thrive. And I think the innovation that is happening in the private sector is at such lightning speed that the collaboration between the public and the private will enable this innovation to prosper. But we must avoid situations where it's seen as, and I did experience this by the government, where there's a collision course, or rather they're on a collision course, or there's this friction. And, the real work that we want to explore all these stuff, because the challenges before us are just so immense. If you look at, education as an example, we need to educate. We need to how do we educate the youth of Africa? It's not so much a job for the government anymore. It's a job for the private sector to play a big role in. Of course, with regards to the policy framework, with regards to the right regulatory environment. But, one beauty of COVID that I keep speaking to is the silver lining of a lot of things that we never have thought about doing, we are doing. And we need to continue to push on as we have a pandemic, because the African continent has huge challenges. But the exciting thing is that we can overcome those challenges. And, I look forward to working more with the leaders across the continent, which, again, we build a good relationships with. And exciting times ahead.
Lanre Osibona, the founder of the Foresight Group, thanks so much for your time on SABC News this afternoon. And with that, we say goodbye to our SABC3 viewers. Thanks so much for being with us. And we'll have more after a short break on the SABC News channel. Do stay with us.